Bocca.
Chats with
I've known Chef Denier since college, and to see this guy skyrocket to culinary fame is pure delight. From his beginnings at the infamous Nobu New York to being executive chef at the super hot Catch LA, this guy brings pure joy to the table, and is definitely a ray of sunshine in my soul. So let's get into it.
Yay, I'm digging the stash.
This is the Rona stash. I tried to do the whole thing, but being that I'm of Asian descent, mine looks more like a hedgehog.
It's not easy.
Not as entirely as cool as my fellow brethren from Europe. So I had to go with the stash. Hopefully it's looking more Dirk Diggler than it is Fu Manchu, but I'm a little worried it looks more like Fu Manchu. So
it's proper. You need a chopper now. You need a motorcycle.
Well, yeah. Now that I have been educated by your work, I know that I need to get some wax, and maybe I can twirl this bad boy.
No hate. So how you been, buddy?
I have been, like everybody. Just it's been quite a mind fuck. The dad life is real. Trying to be, as present as possible, but it's hard. You got a 5.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. They're like frat boys. So in between chefing as a cafeteria short order cook and trying to get supplies and provisions for everybody, it's been a hell of a what is it, 6 weeks now, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the hell it's been.
No one knows what day it is. We've gotten rid of calendars.
It's like fucking Groundhog's Day every single day. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I think it's been much like everybody else. It's been, tough mentally, obviously, with the, trying to exercise gratitude, trying to have self-care. I'm trying to think about my staff. We terminated or furloughed everybody.
Yeah.
I took a huge haircut. Obviously, our whole industry, everybody's feeling the pain. So, I've been watching the news, not, Fox and CNN for entertainment, but more like, just NPR, not studying, but, just being a little bit more academic about, what's out there and being a little bit more, at least in thought, sustainable and holistic. Maybe not in practice or in exercise just yet, but it's definitely a come to Jesus moment for everybody. So but having said all that realness, watching your work today for 20 minutes was a very welcome departure, and just to think back about, or not even think back, think ahead to, what's cool and why we do this, why we do what we do, how talented you are, and, how great a country Italy is, how great a country we are, and just, how it all melds together, and, we got to get through this somehow. So
that's great, man. I'm really glad you had that reaction. That's wonderful. I mean, like during the quarantine, have you found yourself doing any projects yourself? Like anything new with your time?
It's been survival, man. It's Lord of the Flies over here. My two fraternity boys are, you see my Instagram. It's just like, and I cook for them. And then here's the thing is that I get butthurt when they don't like my food. Most of the time they like my food, but every once in a while they don't like my food. I'm like, what? You little shit, like, do you have any ideas? So, most of my time is devoted to that. My projects are things that are in my mind that I haven't been able to execute. I've resotted my little garden. I took a jacaranda tree out my backyard in the hopes of putting in a pool one day. Trying to buy heirloom seeds online, geeking out,
That's good.
It's like some of our friends, like our dear friend Jared. I don't know, man. I really wish I had, trying to have a positive spin on things, and it's, good to see you and all that. But this whole, this setup, this medium is not, doesn't feel real. Not used to it. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. So,
I mean, has your relationship with food changed? Has that become weird too? Or are you thinking about food differently?
I mean, in the sense of procurement and, being not in the kitchen, and thinking more in terms of like what's going to satisfy my clients, my clientele, my
Up your clientele, man.
My demographic has changed. And so, it's about stretching things out. It's about eating what's local. It's about eating what's in season. It's about being sustainable, AKA affordable.
Right.
All those things. And to me, all of those things kind of come back to your project and what you're talking about and these cookbooks and all that in one sense or another. It really comes back to that, what you, outlined as like, really cool or, far out type of recipes were probably just born out of poverty, and just trying to make the best out of what you can. And the cool alchemy is that people like Italians can turn something into something magical, something, shoe leather into something magical, can turn tripes into something, unbelievably beautiful, all those things. That to me is, I guess what my mind frame is now versus looking at a P&L and wondering why my food cost was, this versus that versus how many parties we're getting in, it's a little bit different. The economies of scale are different. So we've scaled down. And, trying to make it just closer to home, make it more real.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to another chef friend of mine. He was saying that these recipes, these poverty recipes, like the things that poor people would normally eat or working class, you would say, like those have been hard to find because they've been elevated to this, the cacio e pepes, the puttanescas, like the simple dishes are now like things you would find in restaurants. He's going to the bodega and like, what can I do with ramen? What can I do with, these basic things that you really find that what's the new poor meal and like, what can you do with it? So it's been interesting kind of how that's changed everything. How the corner market is kind of the new supermarket because everything is out of these bigger chains,
Yeah. And to, for me, actually, that you're supporting the local economy.
Right.
It's not some jerk off sitting in a, penthouse office. It's, people who have real, companies. And that as an independent, freelance, creative person that, you have to create the opportunity and you have to work it. Like you can't just say, okay, here, I created a website, here, go, it's done. Like, no, you just started the race. You know what I mean? So to me, one of the things that I have found the most peace in, and I've been sort of internally proud of, is that ever since this started, I've gone to Santa Monica every Wednesday.
Yeah.
And, taken the necessary measures. I know I'm supposed to stay at home and, we've done that diligently here in our household, but going to the farmer's market is as much, about my sanity as it is about supporting the local farmer and supporting our local economy. Sure. And doing what it is. So, in some small way, maybe it's my way of activism or my little piece of that, of just trying to help, those that are around me, because I mean, if I had more, then I would do more, but,
sure.
Trying to do the best you can with what you have, with what you can with what you have. So, yeah,
I totally hear you, man. I mean, I was totally affected with what was going on with Italy, especially a few weeks ago when they were really getting pummeled. And, I'm a filmmaker and there's nothing you can do from this side of the world sometimes. So we made that little film and, I think everyone wants to help whoever in whatever way they can. I mean,
right.
That's kind of the good thing, I guess, that's come out of this. But, how do you think you relate to that story of like, how are you connected to Italy personally? Like what's your feelings towards them as a country?
To me, and I don't know if, watching it the whole time and what you guys did so well and weaving and telling the story is that, to me, I'm undeniably Asian, and being from Korea, you're like, wow, Korea and Italy could be so completely different.
You're Korean?
But then,
bro, you're possible.
You didn't notice, but my fair complexion, you know. No, I mean, both peninsulas, both fiercely stubborn,
food orientated,
multi-generational. Will argue about recipes. Very simple things will differ from region to region, and it's about making the best with what you have, and that's present in kimchi or in the panchans or in all the things that Koreans would eat. It wasn't all K-pop and what's his name, Oscars, for Korea. 50 years ago, 60 years ago, it was a peasant farming country,
right?
And they did the best with what they could, and that stuff to me, which is delicious and just sort of, I guess my birthright from mom and grandma, actually has all these stories. And so for me, kind of taking that playbook out of people like yourself, or seeing the sort of the evolution of how my Italian American friends discover their motherland, in the same way I feel like that's happening for Korean Americans, and in Italian Americans, you guys are 8, 9, however many generations in deep. My people were now 2 or 3 generations into America, and to see that path, like you said, it's like, the fancy smancy stuff, you don't really see the sort of the disgusting bits or the ugly bits, the stuff that people like you and I like. Right. Same with Korea, right? I mean, Korean barbecue is the gateway drug, and it's like, well, to encapsulate Korean food, into Korean barbecue would be completely unfair. In the same way, I think, would take a pizza or spaghetti or whatever you want to name. But all those things have now become sort of ours as Americans. Right. And so I'm hoping that 3, 4, 5, generations or iterations down the line, Koreans can share in the same sort of celebration of the culture and the food that Italy does, because it really is very similar. So back to your question, I see a lot of similarities. But for me, outside of food, one of the best moments for me was in 2002 when Korea beat Italy in the World Cup.
Right, I gotta go. I'm sorry. I hear the phone or my baby crying.
It was the most pinnacle moment of this kimchi boy's life, and so I can't help but mention it because this is our contribution.
The last time I bring Grappa over to your house. This is the last time. Okay, I'm taking notes. All right. I'm getting used to winning, okay?
Yeah, we've only gone downhill since.
That's true. Speaking of downhill, you saw me cook and Peter cook on this little film that we made, like as a professional chef. What do you think? And don't hold back, please.
Nah, you guys crushed it, and I was thinking about it. I was like, damn, this guy is so talented. And I'm like, what is he putting on his business card? Dreamweaver, master of possibilities. Like what you guys did in terms of being able to tell a story, show the technique, and show what's important, I think is better than what most chefs do, honestly, because chefs are we have blinders on. You tell us the color in charcoal, you tell us the color in watercolor, that's what we do. But you managed to really bring it all in together and to say the important things and not get sort of bogged down in the minutia of like, I need a brunoise cut of carrot and celery for my mirepoix, whatever it may be. And the way you did it is the way food tastes best. And mind you too, you were working off of recipes you had never done before, and you had to translate them. So there's no chef, when you're trying a recipe for the first time, whether you are a quote unquote trained professional or not, there's a learning curve, Well,
I appreciate that. I think what you don't see in the 20-minute film is the several hours of fuck ups that we said, okay, try it again. We burnt this one. Let's do another one. But maybe in the next film, we'll leave those in because they were funny too. But I appreciate you saying that. It was, frankly, not to I'm not undermining chefs. I'm not saying what you do is not anything less than amazing, but at least with Italian food, and at least like how I know it from my mother and my family, it's not that complicated. It's 4 ingredients, and if you just kind of stick to the basics and they're attentive, they usually turn out pretty good. It's usually the ingredients that have to be the best to start with, because it is only 4 ingredients. It's nothing complicated like French cooking, or I think it's pretty pedestrian in a way, and that's what makes it.
But I mean, pedestrian is also what makes it hard, because when you're working with 4 ingredients, if you screw up, it's pretty apparent.
That's true. You got to be specific. Yeah.
And I think that, what chefs do is more about just the execution and the timing of things. As simple and as familial as Italian food may be, the artistry of what mom or grandma does is they're able to host a party, to get people happy, to make sure that the food lands on time, to make sure that you eat, the meat and the ragu first, and then you have, everything is in its place for a reason. You're not just doing it because Rob said so. You're doing it because this is the way that generations of families have decided that this is the best way to enjoy it, and to get the best out of each moment or product or meal or whatever you want to call it. So,
I never understood how my mother, especially cooking now and later in life, I still don't understand how my mother made a meal, like 3, 4, 5 courses sometimes. It's just her and my father. Like, I didn't understand how she could do that all at the same time. That really is, I would say, the hardest thing about being a cook.
Yeah. And then, and that in their own way is that's them being a professional chef.
That's the magic. Yeah.
That's the magic, because a chef is so many things. You're a mechanic, you're a priest, you're a,
psychologist.
You're all these things. And so same thing in the house, to be able to get everybody, who may not be at, in good terms with each other, sit down at the table, eat peacefully, have the wine and the bread and the pasta and everything come up at the same time. And that's not for nothing. That takes,
you're a magician.
That takes skill, that takes artistry, that takes a lot of things. And so I think that we forget that, and that to me is undeniably chefing. That's a chef right there. That's.
Well, listen, I got a final question for you, and you kind of touched on it, but do you love Italy? And tell me why.
Do I love Italy? I think that might be one of the
loaded question.
Stupidest questions I've ever heard.
Listen, man, I make films. I don't interview people.
Who doesn't love Italy? I mean, that, I don't even know. See, even my hands, they're like automatically gesticulating. You know what I mean? And I'm not Italian,
Yeah, you are, though. I mean, listen, you make, and I hope my mother never sees this, my favorite pasta of all time, and I've eaten boatloads. That umi pasta you made for me haunts me. I wake up sometimes screaming, "Honey!" And my girlfriend's like, "Who are you talking about? Who's this girl?" No, it's a pasta, and it destroyed me. And
One half dozen to the other. I think, again, that proves the point of how we can marry flavors, and it's not like you're marrying 2 people that have never met each other. It's actually very, very, came from the same neighborhood, and that's what, to me, is so great about Italy, because even though I'm not Italian, it makes me, I feel Italian when I go there. And you saw my Instagram post today. I have so much time on my hands. I'm looking at pictures in my computer that only live in my computer, because I know I'm from that time period where it was pre-social media. But we were too lazy to print them. But there were these cool things that, who was it, like 4 pixels, 3 pixels? I don't even know. But I happened to find this random picture that, wasn't very good in terms of clarity or sharpness or whatever. But this flood of emotions came in, and just thinking about that exact moment. And it was very unique that, food could transport you back to that place. And I remember that nonna's face. I remember how hot it was because I remember how drunk I was. And, you know, as a day drinker, you know, that can be rough sometimes. So, you know, that food was like not only delicious, it was nourishing, you know, and it gave us life, you know, and, you know, it was right after I'd finished graduate school and right about the time when I started flirting with the idea of cooking. And that was, you know, some of the, one of the first sort of real Italian dishes I've ever eaten, you know, and it rocked my world because before that it was, you know, the green canister made out of paper that had the Parmesan cheese in it, you know, and so, you know, seeing this and tasting it was everything to me, and I fell in love with Italy. I mean, long before that, but that just helped really, you know, reinforce and just double down and understand that this is a magical place and these are a magical people because it's no bullshit, you know, and that's what I see in these books. Now that they're not only beautiful, they're history, but it's culture and there's no bullshit in there. And that's the great part. And that's what makes great books, great pieces, artifacts, especially cookbooks, you know, history, because it's not just a recipe. It's not just 2.5 cups of flour. It's what people went through to get those 2.5 cups of flour and how they built this recipe. Or like you said, maybe it was just some guy that was buzzing like I am and just kind of writing things down. Half the recipes that I've translated or, you know, put into like word processing form for my chefs in my career, I started off the back of a cocktail napkin. So all greatness in culinary form starts off with call it a half-assed idea, you know what I mean? And it just gets better and better and better with every version, with every update, with every, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, man, I got to tell you, it's really a pleasure to know you obviously, but to hear someone talk about food in such a magical way that really gets it. I mean, food, I think everyone loves food. It's not something you have to tell anyone, but to hear someone be able to say it like you do, it puts it in perspective, dude. So I appreciate you taking the time to wax with me. It's cool.
Oh, no problem. Anytime. I appreciate you listening to me. It's all coming from the heart. So I have no idea what the hell I'm saying. So I just hope you'll make me look good later.
You'll be fine. I got the filter on this. It's good. Yeah, that's good. This is your screenshot. This is a thumbnail for the video. It's you playing with your mustache.
Wonderful. I remember the last.
I love you and I miss you. I hope everyone's good. Give my love to the kiddos.
Oh,
you know, I hope they survive your wrath.
Well, you mean my Michelin inspectors? They're downstairs right now, so I'm gonna have to.
I'm gonna watch the
start prepping. Yeah, just call me Ratatouille. You know.
Yeah, totally. Be good. I hope to see you soon, man. I hope we get out of this soon.
Love you, brother. Be well.
Too, man. Take care. Peace.
20 rare cookbooks, 4 tasty dishes, 2 best friends. Watch the film, see the books, help Italy recover. Get hungry at ItalyInBocca.com.